What is good? Osiris here, stuck in the middle. And big tech just censored the 14th district of Georgia from Twitter. And that's MTG. What are the ramifications of this? What does this mean? MTG was on track on Twitter and in general of becoming an equal and opposite force to AOC. And I've said before, I think AOC is the next chosen one, like a young Nancy Pelosi. Notice we haven't seen anyone from the establishment position suspended from Twitter. Twitter decides what misinformation is. They contract that out, but they ultimately have the final say. Twitter, Facebook, etc. We'll see if there is a coordinated response with other platforms for her. I haven't heard of that yet, but that's what happened with Trump. We haven't seen anyone on that side suspended. It's not an accident. If the 14th district of Georgia, where she represented, if they elected a Liz Cheney Republican instead of MTG, Twitter would then grant them their voice back through their representative on the platform. So they are stepping into the fabric and framework of our nation by doing that. It's basically an indirect social credit score for the 14th district of Georgia, their representation. If you get in line, you get someone who has a voice on Twitter, and you can go and say Twitter is not important. And I've had my differences with, even though, I'm a huge Young Ripper fan, the strongest point out of everything that he says that we disagree with is his take on Twitter. He thinks Twitter is a joke. Twitter is one of the more powerful platforms out there. That's where these philosophical ideas are being hashed out. The battle is having. AOC rose. AOC rose not because of Instagram. It was more because of Twitter, in my opinion. This is morally corrupt from our government in coordination with private companies. So they're no longer private companies in my eyes. They're government contracted companies. This is morally corrupt and unconstitutional behavior by our government. So you put everything together that's happened since J6. We're coming up on the anniversary. Donald Trump being banned, military occupation of D.C., November 2020, the Cabal Time article, and then all the pandemic stuff where you purge the military out of people who don't consent. You do censorship of all the big named people like Naomi Wolf and Alex Berenson and Robert Malone and everyone. You start censoring those voices. The corporate elite are performing a military coup right before our very eyes while half the population applauds. History has no example of worldwide coordinated evil against common people like what's happening right now. There is none. It's impossible to have one because social media has just blown up recently. So the tech we have now has never existed in the world. But if you go back, even look at slavery, that's where I would go back and say everyone pretty much in the world was practicing something that was morally corrupt. Even though slavery, even during slavery, it was more of a worldwide practice. It wasn't all governments in the world focused on implementing slavery or even implementing their form of government in the exact same way. Right now, we are seeing Chinese-style totalitarianism globally now. America's not in the same place as Quebec or Australia, certain parts of Australia, because of the Constitution. So we're behind, but we're trending to where they are. Never seen it ever in the history of the world. What's the call to action? What's the takeaway? Well, number one, I still say information is the number one thing. Most people are walking around in their life. They don't know. They don't care. So it's a slow boil that's happening that they might disagree with, that they don't even know that's happening. They don't even know the puzzle pieces that are being put together here. The pandemic response, Quebec being on lockdown, Australia, COVID concentration camps, Marjorie Taylor Greene being suspended from Twitter. These are not independent events. These are all related, in my opinion. So give people the information. Maybe I am out of line. Please convince me otherwise. I talk with people on all types of sides here. I have not even come close to being convinced that I'm wrong. I'm actually convinced more when I talk to people with the mental gymnastics they have to do to try and prove me wrong. That make no sense. There will be good that comes from this. We have to create parallel economies. Marjorie Taylor Greene, in her response, said something, on Getter. She said something to the effect of, "Let's show them that we don't need them," and the only way that you can do that is a parallel economy. And we don't have that structure. No one's built that up. That needs to be built up quickly. I saw in NASCAR there was a driver doing something with the LGB coin, with that phrase that's gone popular, and it was done through Bitcoin, I believe, cryptocurrency, and that's an example of how. So NASCAR could ban it, which I think they will because they've become corporate. But that's how you do it, and then you create your own NASCAR. Like everything that you see now, movies, TV, social media, schools, all have to have a parallel economy. And that has to be started now. And I'm going to end with this, the $600 tracking that didn't go through legislatively yet. The $600 tracking of transactions for all citizens that was proposed. I think the real reason for that was not just like IRS reasons. It would put small banks under too much stress of red tape, and they would probably have to close. Why is that important? Because with big banks, you can say MTG, for example, DJT, for example, they are dangerous. They're doing misinformation, whatever the hell that means. So you, bank, you can't fund them. Close their accounts. But these local banks are not controlled under that big umbrella. So you take out these local institutions that could have their own parallel economy, these small community banks, and you leave everything in the hands of the big. It's very similar to social media. You put everybody on these big platforms, and so we can say, hey, Patreon, you ban. PayPal, you ban. Bank, you ban. Anyone who doesn't believe in critical race theory, banned. Anyone who doesn't believe in climate change, banned. Anyone who doesn't believe in this establishment talking point, banned. Not just from social media, from other aspects. Number one thing, share information. Don't force anybody. Leave room to be wrong and see where they come out. And then, obviously, if you're in Georgia, you've got a gubernatorial race coming up. You better vote smartly. Like, if your candidate isn't talking about this, I don't know who you're voting for. You're voting against your own demise. Let me know what you think. Take care.